I've witnessed it countless times. That specific, unbridled excitement, that boundless enthusiasm only a first solo journey across an ocean can ignite. Olivia Reynolds, a bright-eyed college student from the United Kingdom, radiated it. On August 18, 2024, her plane had just touched down at Los Angeles International Airport, and her West Coast dreams were practically vibrating off her. It was a potent blend of pure joy and, regrettably, a touch of genuine naivete. As she approached the primary inspection booth, her passport clutched tight, presenting it to CBP Officer Thompson, I could see the story beginning to unfold. Officer Thompson, a veteran with a calm, observant gaze, initiated his routine questions: the purpose of her visit, the duration of her intended stay, her return arrangements. Olivia, barely containing her anticipation, launched into a lively description of her plans.
She spoke of a go-with-the-flow itinerary, mentioning explorations of the West Coast and a few potential blog collaborations she hoped to arrange. She elaborated on her digital nomad dreams, a phrase I'm sure she'd practiced for her social media followers. As she spoke, the officer's expression remained neutral, but I could almost hear the subtle alarm bells ringing in the background. This isn't about ill intent. It's about a fundamental mismatch between expressed desire and declared purpose. The moment Olivia mentioned potential blog collaborations and digital nomad dreams, even casually, she inadvertently triggered a cascade of sophisticated algorithmic flags within the Automated Targeting System, or ATS. This system cross-references data points from myriad sources long before a traveler even steps off the aircraft. It analyzes everything from travel history to, increasingly, publicly available social media profiles, searching for inconsistencies with the declared tourist or visa waiver intent. Olivia's vibrant online footprint, filled with posts about her aspirations to work remotely from exotic locales, painted a picture far more complex than a simple vacation. Officer Thompson, after a brief, almost imperceptible pause, simply stated, "Please step aside, ma'am. We need to conduct a secondary inspection." That request, delivered in a quiet, firm tone, is the precise point of no return for many travelers. I've seen the confusion, the sudden dip in a passenger's exuberance, replaced by a nascent fear. Olivia's face went from beaming to bewildered in an instant, her travel dreams suddenly suspended in the sterile air of the customs hall. She was directed to the secondary inspection room, a space I know well. It's not a dungeon, but it certainly isn't a welcoming lounge. The crisp, almost clinical silence inside is often broken only by the low hum of the air conditioning and the rhythmic tapping of keyboards. Here, the scrutiny intensifies. For the next 30 minutes, Olivia found herself sitting across from a different officer, facing a more exhaustive line of questioning. Each of her genuine, yet rambling, answers was carefully noted. When asked about her return flight, she admitted, with a shrug, that she hadn't booked one yet, thinking she'd find a deal later, or maybe stay longer if opportunities arose. And there it was, the definitive proof of problematic intent. The concept of non-immigrant intent is the bedrock of temporary entry into the United States. It means you must unequivocally intend to return home after your authorized period of stay. Any indication otherwise, a lack of a return ticket, vague plans for extending your visit, or aspirations to work, is a direct contravention of this principle. The officers weren't looking for malice. They were looking for clarity and compliance. Her social media profiles were likely being viewed on a second monitor, silently confirming what her verbal statements implied.
The social media vetting protocol isn't about invading privacy for the sake of it. It's about verifying information, connecting the dots. When Olivia's spoken desire to stay longer met her online digital nomad dreams, the narrative became undeniable. Her true intent was not purely tourism. The outcome, as you can imagine, was disheartening for Olivia. She faced a 24-hour hold, a period of administrative processing that's never pleasant, and ultimately, a denial of entry. More than that, the incident left a notation in her travel record, a digital red flag that could complicate any future attempts to visit the United States, or even other countries, for years to come. It wasn't a criminal act, but it was a serious breach of immigration protocol, stemming from a fundamental lack of understanding. But this heartbreaking scenario is entirely avoidable. The solution is straightforward, built on absolute clarity and meticulous preparation. First, always have a confirmed return ticket booked for a date well within your authorized period of stay. Your return ticket isn't just a booking. It's your most eloquent declaration of non-immigrant intent, the linchpin of your temporary entry. Second, present a detailed itinerary with booked accommodations. Even if your plans are genuinely flexible, provide concrete, verifiable bookings for at least the initial portion of your trip. This isn't just a travel plan, it's a blueprint of your clear purpose and financial stability. Third, when interacting with a CBP officer, every word counts. Your answers must be concise, direct, and laser-focused on your declared tourist intent. Resist the urge to volunteer information about potential work, even casual blog collaborations, or aspirations for a digital nomad lifestyle, if you are entering as a tourist. Even an innocent remark can be misinterpreted, activating those silent digital flags. This isn't about playing a game or obscuring the truth. It's about presenting your genuine intentions in a language the system understands, aligning perfectly with the entry category you seek. Border agents aren't guessing, they're verifying. They seek unambiguous intent, bolstered by solid documentation and unwavering verbal consistency. Here's the undeniable truth. Diligent preparation isn't merely good practice. It's your shield and your compass, allowing you to navigate the complexities of international travel with far greater ease and confidence. Your knowledge, or lack thereof, is the unseen force that dictates the entire trajectory of your journey, from a smooth arrival to a disheartening departure. So, before your next flight, ask yourself, can I articulate my non-immigrant intent with absolute conviction, leaving no room for doubt or misinterpretation? The answer, I assure you, will define your experience. I've witnessed countless travelers falter at the port of entry, often due to a fundamental misunderstanding of the system itself. But then there are those rare individuals who not only grasp the intricacies, but master them, transforming a potential gauntlet into a mere formality. Consider David Sterling, a corporate consultant, 45 years old, who landed at Chicago O'Hare International Airport, ORD as we call it, on April 2, 2025. He was returning from a complex international project, operating under an L-1B visa. An L-1B visa isn't your garden-variety tourist pass. It's specifically for individuals with specialized knowledge transferring within the same company. Re-entry on such a visa almost always signals an automatic elevation in scrutiny. It's a systemic gatekeeper's logic.
These are non-immigrant visas, and every re-entry is an opportunity for United States Customs and Border Protection, CBP, to re-verify continued eligibility. Officers are meticulously trained to look for any deviation from the original intent, any sign that the specialized knowledge is no longer current, or that the employment has shifted. For most, this means a drawn-out conversation, often a trip to secondary inspection. But David Sterling was not most people. As David approached CBP Officer Roberts, the air was thick with the low hum of the terminal, punctuated by the distinct, almost silent whir of the biometric scanner. The machine efficiently processed his fingerprints, a routine but absolutely critical step in verifying identity against the United States Citizenship and Immigration Services, USCIS, database.
David presented his passport, his valid L-1B visa, and then, with a small, satisfying click, opened a meticulously organized 3-ring binder. This wasn't some hastily assembled folder. It was a fortress of documentation, a testament to his profound understanding of the immigration labyrinth. Within that binder lay every conceivable document Officer Roberts might ask for. There was his original I-797 approval notice, the formal confirmation from USCIS that his visa petition had been approved. Crucially, he also included a recent, detailed letter from his employer, verifying his current assignment, clearly stating its technical scope and the ongoing need for his specialized knowledge. This proactive measure directly addressed the core requirement of the L-1B classification. Beyond that, David had recent pay stubs demonstrating continuous employment and financial stability, and even a copy of his company's United States tax returns, proving the legitimacy and active status of his sponsoring entity. It all painted a picture of unwavering compliance. Officer Roberts, a veteran with a sharp eye for detail, scanned the binder's contents. I could almost hear his internal dialogue ticking off checkboxes. He noted the thoroughness, a subtle acknowledgement that David had anticipated nearly every potential query. The officer then asked about his current project. David's response was concise, precise, and entirely devoid of extraneous details. He referenced the project code and its specific technical scope, aligning his verbal statement perfectly with the L-1B classification and the documentation in his hands. There was no hesitation, no ambiguous language, only direct facts that confirmed his non-immigrant intent and specialized role. This is where the power of preparation truly shines. David understood the systemic gatekeeper's logic. The officer's primary role is to verify the visa holder's continued eligibility and adherence to the visa's conditions, ensuring no overstay or breach of purpose. David's comprehensive documentation package proactively addressed every potential query related to his employment, his specialized knowledge, and his non-immigrant intent. He wasn't just answering questions. He was preempting them. This minimized the need for further questioning, systematically removing any ambiguities or red flags that might have triggered a secondary inspection, a common, often frustrating delay for L-1B holders. David was waved through, a rare feat for someone in his visa category. Think about it. How many times have you been caught off guard by a question you should have anticipated? This success story isn't about luck. It's about the sheer power of anticipating and over-preparing for complex immigration categories. It's not about providing more information than asked, but having all the right information readily available, presented in an organized, verifiable manner. Your ability to demonstrate clear compliance without prompting can dictate the trajectory of your entire re-entry process. So, how do you replicate David Sterling's success? Here's a practical checklist for anyone facing a complex visa re-entry. First, you must understand your visa classification. You need to know the precise requirements of your visa, inside and out. For an L1B, for example, that means having specialized knowledge directly related to your United States employment. Second, maintain current employer documentation.
Always carry an up-to-date letter from your employer, detailing your current role, the project you're on, and the absolute necessity of your presence in the United States. Third, proof of continuous employment is non-negotiable. Keep recent pay stubs and employment verification letters. These are concrete evidence of your ongoing, legitimate work. Fourth, demonstrate financial stability. Have bank statements or other proof of financial solvency readily available to show you can support yourself during your stay. Fifth, consider ties to your home country, if applicable to your visa type. While David's L1B specifically hinged on employment ties, for many other non-immigrant visas, showing property ownership, family connections, or other strong ties to your country of origin significantly helps prove non-immigrant intent. Sixth, organize everything. A 3-ring binder might seem old-fashioned, but its physical presence and clear organization scream diligence. Use tabs, clear sleeves, and a logical order.
Seventh, be concise and factual. When speaking with an officer, answer only the question asked, directly and truthfully. Absolutely avoid volunteering information that isn't relevant. This level of preparation transforms the unknown into the anticipated. It instills confidence in you, and even more critically, in the officer reviewing your case. Remember this, knowledge isn't just power. It's your express pass through the most formidable gateways. Don't just travel, prepare to travel intelligently. I just covered how meticulous preparation is your express pass through immigration, how knowing every single document in detail can save you from a major headache. But what happens when that meticulousness, that crucial diligence, stops abruptly at the customs hall threshold? That, my friends, is where one specific, seemingly minor oversight can derail an entire journey, transforming a joyful return into a cautionary tale.
I've seen it countless times.
Take Robert Thompson, for instance, a man of 58 years, recently retired from a long career in accounting, a profession built on precision and adherence to regulations. His wife, Susan, was 56, the picture of a contented homemaker. They were returning home to the United States on December 22, 2024, after a relaxing Caribbean cruise, landing at Miami International Airport, or MIA, as we call it. Their spirits were high, buoyed by the tropical sun and the prospect of the upcoming holidays. They were laden with souvenirs, as many travelers are, and, crucially, a few carefully selected gifts for their adult children. A high-end watch for their son, a luxury brand handbag for their daughter-in-law. The total value, by their own estimation, hovered around $3,000.
A substantial sum, certainly. But in their minds, these were gifts, personal tokens of affection, not items for resale or commercial intent. And this is where the trouble began. On their CBP Declaration Form 6059B, a form I consider one of the most vital yet most frequently misinterpreted documents for returning citizens, they checked no in response to the question regarding bringing merchandise for others. A simple checkmark, a seemingly innocuous decision born from what I call an informational misconception. Their reasoning, which I later heard Robert articulate with a bewildered shrug, was that gifts for family were exempt, somehow under the radar. It seemed logical to them, in that moment of post-vacation bliss, that these personal presents wouldn't count as dutiable goods. This is a common fallacy, a pervasive myth propagated by casual advice rather than verifiable facts. The U.S. Customs and Border Protection views these items through a very different lens.
As they navigated the bustling, often deceptive anonymity of the customs hall, a random selection directed them to a secondary inspection. This isn't about suspicion. It's about maintaining border integrity, ensuring compliance across the board. They found themselves facing CBP Officer Miller, a seasoned professional with an unfailingly calm demeanor that often belies the rigorous scrutiny applied to every bag. The meticulous detail, the structured examination of baggage inspection technologies, it all works in concert. No matter how clever someone believes their system to be, the layered checks eventually bring the truth to light. Then came the sound. A sharp, loud rip of a plastic customs bag being torn open for inspection. It wasn't malicious, not angry, but it was decisive, a clean tear that seemed to cleave their holiday mood right down the middle. Robert still remembers that sound, he told me later, the sudden, jarring end to their carefree return. Inside, Officer Miller's trained eyes quickly spotted the new, still tagged luxury items. The watch, the handbag, all pristine, clearly not personal effects worn during the cruise. Robert, flustered, attempted to explain. "But officer," he stammered, his voice betraying a hint of indignity, "these are just gifts for our children. They're not for us. We're not selling them." Officer Miller, however, remained impassive, his expression unchanging as he calmly clarified the regulations. The U.S. duty-free exemption limits are clear. Typically, a returning resident can bring back up to $100 in gifts for others without incurring duty. $100, not $3,000. This isn't about the gift's intent, it's about its value and its recipient. When you transport merchandise intended for another person, even if it's a gift, it's subject to duty if it exceeds the $100 limit. The technical pathology here involved several critical financial mechanisms.
First, the items were not declared, leading to a presumptive penalty for undeclared goods. Second, the merchandise processing fee, or MPF, would have applied to the dutiable value had they declared it properly. This is a fixed fee, or an ad valorem rate, depending on the type of entry, that funds the processing of imported merchandise. And third, the actual duties would be assessed based on the Harmonized Tariff Schedule, or HTS codes specific to luxury watches and handbags. These codes dictate the precise tariff rates for every single type of imported good, ensuring a standardized, transparent collection of duties. It's a complex system, but its purpose is straightforward: to generate revenue and protect domestic industries. Ignorance of these codes, or the limits they govern, is never an excuse. The real outcome for Robert and Susan was swift and financially painful. After a 3-hour delay spent in a sterile secondary inspection area, their initial denial of knowing the rules evolved into a begrudging acceptance of the consequences.
They faced a hefty fine for the undeclared merchandise, which can be several times the value of the goods, alongside the payment of the actual duties and any applicable MPF. Furthermore, a notation was entered into their travel record, a digital mark that, while not necessarily preventing future travel, can flag them for more frequent secondary inspections down the line. The gifts, thankfully, were eventually released after the full payment was made. But the joy of the cruise and the spirit of holiday giving were undeniably tarnished. So, what should they have done? It's profoundly simple. Honesty, even if it means paying a small duty, always simplifies border crossings. They needed to declare all items exceeding the duty-free limit on the CBP Declaration Form 6059B.
It's not a trick question. It's a straightforward query designed to ensure compliance. You see, the power of preparation works both ways. It can prevent problems, but it can also mitigate them. Had they declared the items, they would have paid a comparatively minor duty, perhaps $100 or $200, and been on their way within minutes. Instead, they faced a penalty that was multiples of that, coupled with significant delay and an entry on their travel record. My advice, plain and simple, comes down to 3 crucial points. A practical checklist for anyone bringing back gifts. 1. Know your limits. Understand the duty-free exemption limits. For most gifts to others, it's $100 per person. For personal items, including gifts you keep for yourself, it's usually $800. These are not arbitrary numbers. They are precise legal thresholds. 2. Declare everything. When in doubt, declare it. The small box on the CBP Declaration Form 6059B that asks about merchandise for others? Mark yes if you have anything, and be ready to provide details. Honesty is not just the best policy. It's the only policy that guarantees a smooth passage. 3. Separate business from pleasure. Mentally, and ideally physically, separate items for personal use from items intended as gifts for others. This helps clarify what falls under which exemption category and makes accurate declaration far easier. This knowledge isn't about fostering fear. It's about empowering you. It's about understanding the intricate dance between regulation and reality. The system works with incredible precision, and those who try to bypass it often find themselves caught in its gears. But those who engage with it intelligently, armed with accurate information, navigate through it with remarkable ease. That's the difference. And it's a difference I urge you to embrace. The crisp, clinical hum of the portable oxygen concentrator was the first sound to cut through the muted murmur of the Transportation Security Administration checkpoint at London Heathrow. It was October 10, 2023, and 72-year-old Eleanor Vance, a retired teacher, moved with steady, practiced grace, her eyes scanning the process ahead. This journey, from London to New York's John F. Kennedy International Airport, was certainly not her easiest. Chronic respiratory conditions meant her carry-on was less about paperback novels and more about essential medical equipment and life-sustaining prescriptions. For many, such a journey might trigger apprehension, even outright fear. But for Eleanor? She viewed it not as a hurdle, but as a meticulously prepared challenge, ready to be met head-on. I've seen passengers in Eleanor's situation caught completely off guard, their faces wilting as security agents begin to scrutinize their medical bags. They're often relying on vague assurances or outdated information gleaned from a quick internet search. But Eleanor understood that navigating air travel with critical health needs required more than hope.
It demanded absolute precision. Weeks before her departure, she'd secured a comprehensive physician's statement from her doctor. This wasn't some hastily scribbled note. It was a detailed, official document listing every single medication by both its generic and brand name, specifying dosages, and explicitly stating the medical necessity of her portable oxygen concentrator. Alongside this, she carried a separate prescription for the oxygen itself, confirming its critical role in her daily well-being. And this, my friends, is the cornerstone of proactive preparation. Without such clear, indisputable documentation, even the most well-intentioned traveler can find themselves facing an intractable problem.
As she reached the scanner, a younger man, TSA Agent Davis, with a polite but firm demeanor, gestured towards her small, wheeled medical bag. The rhythmic pulse of her portable oxygen concentrator, or POC, was clearly audible, a constant low thrum against the sterile backdrop of the terminal. "Ma'am, could you tell me about this device and the pre-filled syringes in your bag?" Agent Davis asked, his tone professional, his eyes making a quick, trained assessment of her and her equipment. This is the moment where many stumble, where panic takes hold. The low hum of the POC, a sound that signals life for Eleanor, can sound like an anomaly to an untrained ear, or a red flag to a less experienced agent. But Eleanor didn't falter. With a calm, reassuring smile, she handed him her physician's statement, neatly folded inside a clear plastic sleeve. "Certainly, officer," she began, her voice steady and clear despite her age. "This is my portable oxygen concentrator. It's medically necessary for my respiratory condition, as outlined in this letter from my physician. The syringes are pre-filled with my essential injectable medications. All the liquid medications are clearly labeled with my name, the prescription details, and are within the medical exemption for carry-on limits, which is also noted in my statement." She gestured to the distinct labeling on each item, clearly showing her name and the pharmacist's details. What Eleanor did here was a masterclass in transparency and preparedness. She understood that while Transportation Security Administration regulations exempt medically necessary liquids, gels, and aerosols from the standard 311 rule, that's 3.4 ounces, the burden of proof always rests with the passenger. This isn't about arbitrary rules. It's about verified safety protocols. Agents need to confirm that these items are indeed what they claim to be, and that they pose no threat. A physician's statement, especially one as detailed as Eleanor's, eliminates ambiguity. It acts as a universal translator, bridging the gap between a passenger's personal medical needs and the rigorous requirements of airport security. Once through TSA, the next hurdle was Customs and Border Protection. After a long flight, exhaustion can chip away at even the most disciplined traveler's resolve. I've witnessed countless individuals, tired and eager to leave the terminal, make critical errors at this stage. They either forget to declare something, or worse, attempt to minimize their possessions, not realizing the severe penalties for non-compliance. But Eleanor maintained her focus. At the immigration booth, CBP Officer Johnson greeted her. "Anything to declare today, ma'am?" he asked, his gaze direct and encompassing. Many might think only of goods purchased abroad when asked this question. But for someone like Eleanor, with specialized medical needs, a different kind of declaration becomes relevant. "Yes, officer," she replied without hesitation. "I have several essential prescription medications for chronic conditions. They are all for my personal use, and I have the full documentation from my doctor."
This seemingly small detail is incredibly significant, particularly for international travel. Different nations have distinct regulations regarding controlled substances, and what is legal and readily available in one country might be restricted or even prohibited in another. The United States Controlled Substances Act, for instance, has strict guidelines for certain medications, and declaring them up front, backed by a physician's statement, sidesteps potential issues before they can even arise. Eleanor's journey, which could have been fraught with anxiety and delays, unfolded seamlessly. There were no tense standoffs, no secondary screenings, no questioning looks.
Her success hinged on two fundamental principles: proactive documentation and transparent communication. It's a clear demonstration that correct preparation works every single time. The methodical, often empathetic approach of airport security personnel, which is sometimes misunderstood, is designed to ensure safety while facilitating legitimate travel. When a traveler provides clear, unambiguous medical documentation, they empower the system to work for them, not against them. Think about this. If you were in Eleanor's position, navigating an international flight with essential medications, would you be as thoroughly prepared? Would you know, down to the last detail, exactly what documentation to carry? It's not enough to simply have prescriptions. You need the full, official physician's statement, especially when traveling with injectables or specialized medical devices like a portable oxygen concentrator. This kind of preparation transforms a potentially stressful, time-consuming encounter into a routine formality. Here's my simple, practical checklist for seamless travel with medical needs. 1. Obtain a comprehensive physician's statement. This document, on your doctor's letterhead, must detail all medications, generic and brand names, dosages, and medical necessity. It should also confirm any medical devices like POCs or injectables are required. 2. Keep medications in original, labeled containers. Do not transfer pills to unmarked containers. The original pharmacy labels serve as immediate proof of legitimacy and dosage. 3. Separate medical supplies for easy inspection. Store all medical items, especially liquids and devices, in an easily accessible bag within your carry-on. This allows for quick presentation without rummaging. 4. Understand the medical exemption rules. Remember, the 3-1-1 rule generally doesn't apply to medically necessary liquids, but be ready to explain and present proof. 5. Declare everything at customs. For international travel, always declare all prescription medications at customs. This preempts any issues related to controlled substances or import restrictions. Eleanor Vance's experience proves that knowledge truly is power. It's not about intimidating the system. It's about engaging with it intelligently. By embracing these crucial steps, you can navigate the complex world of air travel with confidence, ensuring your focus remains on your journey, not on preventable complications. That's the kind of empowerment every traveler deserves. I've seen it countless times, that slow dawning comprehension on a traveler's face when the system, unwavering and absolute, delivers its verdict. It's a moment that can send a cascade of carefully laid plans tumbling down, and it almost always stems from a single critical misstep, a failure to truly understand the rules. Just last May 5, 2025, Mark Johnson, a bright-eyed software engineer of 30, faced precisely this kind of reckoning at the Mumbai check-in counter. His destination was Sao Paulo, Brazil, with a scheduled 6-hour layover at Dallas-Fort Worth International Airport
DFW. A seemingly straightforward itinerary, right? He thought so too. Mark had spent weeks planning his trip, meticulously mapping out code commits before his departure. But when it came to his transit through the United States, he made a fatal assumption. He'd stumbled upon some outdated forum advice, a relic from a bygone era of international travel, suggesting that transit without visa was an option for certain nationalities, especially if one simply remained in the sterile transit area.
That, my friends, is where the trouble began. The United States doesn't generally operate like that, and this misinformation is a significant trap for many international travelers. As he presented his passport and e-ticket to airline representative Sarah, her pleasant demeanor subtly shifted. Her fingers danced across the keyboard of her passenger service system, the digital heartbeat of the check-in process. I could almost hear the quiet whir of the back-end servers, cross-referencing his details against the authoritative International Air Transport Association, or IATA, thematic database. This isn't some obscure governmental portal. This is the definitive global reference point for entry requirements that every airline uses. It's a vast, intricate network of rules and regulations, updated constantly by sovereign nations themselves. The system rendered its judgment with unblinking precision. A red flag. Sarah's voice, though apologetic, carried the weight of uncompromising regulation. "Mr. Johnson," she began, her gaze softening with genuine regret. "I am truly sorry to inform you, but our system indicates you do not possess the necessary travel authorization for transit through the United States." Mark's brow furrowed, bewildered. He clarified. "But I'm only transiting. I'm not even leaving the airport. I have a connecting flight, just 6 hours." And that's the crux of it, isn't it? The widely held, yet fundamentally incorrect belief that a simple layover in the U.S. somehow exempts you from the nation's stringent entry requirements. The truth, which Sarah then had to carefully explain, is that nearly all international transit passengers passing through a U.S. airport must clear U.S. Customs and Border Protection. Unlike many European or Asian hubs, U.S. airports do not maintain sterile transit areas where passengers can simply connect to another international flight without officially entering the country. Every traveler, regardless of their final destination, is considered to be seeking admission into the United States. And that means you need a visa. The thematic database, the very backbone of airline compliance, clearly mandated that Mark required either a C-1 transit visa or a valid B-1 or B-2 tourist or business visa for his connection through DFW. He had neither. His 6-hour layover, far from being a simple wait, would have required him to go through immigration, collect any checked baggage, potentially recheck it for his onward flight, and pass through Transportation Security Administration screening again. Imagine the sheer bureaucratic labyrinth for a moment. This isn't about intimidating passengers. It's about maintaining the security protocols of a nation. The implications for Mark were immediate and devastating. His initial flight from Mumbai to Dallas was effectively worthless. He was denied boarding right there at the check-in counter. I can still picture the distinct, heavy metallic clang of the boarding gate closing, the sound echoing not just through the terminal, but through Mark's sinking realization that his meticulously planned journey had ended before it even truly began. This single oversight, relying on outdated anecdotes instead of official channels, resulted in more than just a missed flight. It meant the forfeiture of his non-refundable tickets,
a substantial financial hit, and the urgent, expensive necessity to purchase a brand new itinerary. This new route would have to completely bypass the United States, likely adding significant time and cost to his journey to Sao Paulo. So, what's the real lesson here, beyond the frustrations and the forfeited funds? It's a powerful testament to the unforgiving logic of international aviation regulations. We, as experts in this field, see these situations unfold daily. The system isn't designed to be punitive. It's designed for security and compliance.
And the best defense against such disruptions is always, without exception, proper preparation.
Here's your practical playbook, honed through years of watching these scenarios play out. First, verify before you book. Before you even click Confirm on a complex international itinerary, especially one involving transit through a third country, meticulously confirm the transit visa requirements. Second, always consult official sources. Your primary resources should be the embassy or consulate of the transit country. In Mark's case, the U.S. Department of State website. Airlines also provide advisories on their official websites, which are powered by Thematic, offering a crucial layer of verification. Third, understand the Thematic database. Grasp this fundamental truth. Airlines are legally bound by the IATA Thematic database. If Thematic says you need a visa, you need a visa. There is absolutely no negotiating this at the check-in counter. Fourth, assume a U.S. layover requires a visa.
Unless you possess specific official documentation proving otherwise, which is a rarity for most nationalities, consistently assume you will need either a C1 transit visa or a valid B1 or B2 tourist or business visa for any U.S. layover that necessitates rechecking baggage or changing terminals. And fifth, check the Visa Waiver Program, or VWP. If you're eligible for the VWP, remember it's not a visa. You still need an approved electronic system for travel authorization, or ESTA. Even with an ESTA, the regulations for connecting flights and entry remain rigorously strict. Mark's experience proves that knowledge truly is power in the unforgiving world of international air travel. It's not about memorizing every single rule, but knowing where to find the definitive answers. Embrace these crucial steps, and you can navigate the complex web of global regulations with confidence, ensuring your focus remains on your destination, not on preventable complications at the start of your journey. That's the kind of empowerment every traveler deserves, and frankly, it's the only way to avoid that metallic clang of a closing gate, signaling the end of an unprepared adventure. The metallic thunk of the primary inspection booth door closing behind Chloe Miller on November 15, 2024, at Seattle-Tacoma International Airport, heralded something far more significant than a mere routine entry. It was the sound of a carefully constructed illusion collapsing. Chloe, a 28-year-old freelance graphic designer from Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, saw herself as a savvy digital nomad, expertly traversing the globe. She had just returned from a 2-week stint in Vancouver, British Columbia, a short hop north. Her prior stay in the United States had pushed the limits of the 90 days allowed by the Visa Waiver Program. Fueled by the hollow promises of countless dubious online forums and social media life hack videos, Chloe harbored an absolute conviction. This swift jaunt out of the country, this border run, would simply reset her 90-day clock, magically granting her another 3 months to explore and work remotely. She was about to learn a harsh lesson about the unyielding, immutable records of international travel. I've witnessed this scene unfold countless times, each instance a stark illustration of a profound misunderstanding of fundamental immigration principles. Officer Wallace, a seasoned Customs and Border Protection agent, possessing an almost uncanny ability to discern true intent, offered barely a glance as Chloe neared his station. His eyes remained locked on his primary monitor, where her entire travel history instantly unfurled. The Automated Biometric Identification System, or ident, had meticulously cataloged her entire entry and exit timeline with chilling precision. Every single stamp, every arrival, every departure, all flawlessly recorded, all cross-referenced. At the border, there are no secrets, only undeniable data points. Chloe's prior 90-day admission, followed by a fleeting 14-day absence, screamed red flag louder than any emergency siren. Officer Wallace's voice was calm, almost devoid of inflection, yet it carried the weight of unquestionable authority. He asked Chloe about the purpose of her extensive prior stay and her brief trip to Canada. Chloe, still clinging to her fabricated narrative, reiterated she was a tourist, just exploring. Yet in the same breath, she casually mentioned her work, her graphic design projects, the very engine of her nomadic lifestyle. That slight discrepancy, that casual admission of economic activity, crashed head-on with the bedrock principle of the visa waiver program: non-immigrant intent. The VWP is explicitly designed for short, temporary tourist or business visits. It is not, and has never been, a pathway to prolonged residency or a surreptitious work permit. Using short exits to circumvent a stay limit is a direct attempt to establish de facto residency without the proper visa. It is, quite simply, immigration fraud. Chloe was directed to secondary inspection, a sterile, windowless room where the air itself seems to amplify the gravity of the situation. The cold, unyielding plastic of the secondary inspection room chair became her reality. This wasn't a polite suggestion. It was an unequivocal order. Officer Wallace explained, with patient clarity, the spirit and letter of the law. He laid out the fundamental principle: your intent must align with the visa or program under which you seek admission. Chloe's nebulous answers about her work as a graphic designer, despite her insistence on tourist status, forged a critical contradiction. The system doesn't just see a person, it analyzes a pattern of behavior and intent. Her prior, near 90-day stay, followed by a fleeting 2-week departure, painted an unmistakable portrait of someone attempting to stretch their permissible stay beyond its intended boundaries. This misrepresentation, coupled with her previous near overstay, was a textbook case of attempting to circumvent immigration law. The outcome was predictable, yet devastating for Chloe. She was denied entry under Section 212A7AI of the Immigration and Nationality Act. This particular section pertains to individuals not being in possession of a valid, unexpired, non-immigrant visa. Essentially, she was attempting to leverage a tourist waiver as a residency permit, which it unequivocally is not. This wasn't an arbitrary decision. It was the automatic response of a system designed to protect national borders and enforce immigration policy. The consequence was immediate removal. Within hours, Chloe was on a flight back to Vancouver,
not to return to her nomadic life, but to face the harsh reality of her misjudgment. That denial also carried the weight of a potential 10-year ban from all future visa waiver program travel to the United States. A full decade. Imagine that. All because of a profound misunderstanding, a pervasive internet myth, a desperate gamble to bypass official regulations for short-term convenience. Her crucial error wasn't malicious intent. It was a profound ignorance, a blind faith in anonymous online advice over legitimate governmental sources. These border-hopping myths stand as some of the most dangerous falsehoods circulating today. They prey on the desire for flexibility and freedom, but deliver nothing but severe, long-term consequences. So, how can you navigate these waters and avoid becoming another Chloe Miller? First, always consult official sources. The U.S. Department of State website, the Customs and Border Protection website, or a qualified immigration attorney are your only reliable guides. Dismiss the forum posts and the TikTok videos. They are fraught with peril. Second, grasp the true spirit of the VWP. It is expressly for temporary visits. If your genuine intent involves living in the country, engaging in work, or establishing residency, then a proper visa is absolutely required. There are no legitimate shortcuts here. Third, be unequivocally honest and consistent. Your responses to immigration officials must flawlessly align with your actual intent and your documented travel history. Any discrepancy, no matter how minor, can rapidly escalate into serious issues. Fourth, never attempt to reset your stay. Departing and immediately re-entering on a VWP after a lengthy stay is a blatant signal of intent to circumvent immigration law. Customs and Border Protection officers are rigorously trained to identify this precise pattern. Ignorance is certainly not bliss at the border. It is a direct, irreversible path to rejection and lengthy bans. Instead, proper preparation, meticulously founded on accurate official information, is your sole defense against the rigid, often unforgiving reality of international travel regulations. It's the difference between continuing your journey and being turned back, watching your plans dissolve into a one-way ticket home. The system works, but only if you work with it, not against it. That, I assure you, is the only life hack truly worth sharing.